Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Christina McNeil, and this is MB12 for Tuesday, April 3rd, 2012, broadcasting from the Cable 12 studios on Robinson Road. In news tonight, the voter fraud hearings wrap up in Andros. We have the outcome. Plus, a candid talk with one of the voters questioned. Thieves loot Doris Johnson High School. Another murder recorded. And could dengue fever be rearing its ugly head once again? We have those stories and much more coming up tonight. Your NB12 starts right now. Joining us. North Andros Administrator Huntley Christie today ordered that the names of 5 challenge voters be struck off the register for that constituency after determining that they are illegally registered. However, he ruled that no criminal action be brought against those voters. Christie handed down the ruling at the conclusion of a hearing in North Andros today. Our Candia Dames was there and filed this report.
In his wrap-up here today, Administrator Christie said these hearings have created a great deal of suspicion and divisions within the North Andros constituency. However, he again stressed the importance of getting to the truth, although he said some of the witnesses were clearly not so committed to the truth. Administrator Christie detailed why it is he has ordered that 5 of those names be struck from the North Andros voters register. You may recall the name Vanlock Fowler. That's the name the Prime Minister called at that recent F&M rally, saying a person who lives in Nassau, has a business in Nassau, and visits another constituency cannot be ordinarily resident in that constituency. Administrator Christie agreed. Fowler testified that he has a home in North Andros and visits there from Nassau most weekends. Also ordered struck from the list is a voter who says she's been a student in Nassau on and off for 7 years, but lives in Andros. The third voter struck off was an interdicted customs officer who said he lives in Andros and only visits Nassau to see his wife, who is in Nassau for employment purposes. The next is a man who testified that he lived in Andros for a month and a half prior to registering to vote. The law stipulates 3 months. The fifth is another woman who claimed she was a student in Nassau but also works in Nassau. Attorney Elma Campbell viewed the ruling as a victory. She said the pursuit of truth can never be a waste of time.
I think that the reaction of the voting public is perhaps more important at this time, and my hope is that others who might be in similar situations may now determine for themselves what is the right and proper thing for them to do.
PLP Deputy Leader Attorney Philip Brave Davis represented 8 of the challenged voters, including those 5 whose names were struck out.
I foreshadowed the concern I had about the whole process from day one. Whereas I respect I respect Dr. Christie and the way he's conducted himself in this matter. The unconscious fact is that he is still a civil servant. The Prime Minister made some comments, and despite what we say, even if he, and I don't suspect otherwise, he's genuine in his finding and bona fide in his finding. It is corrupted by the fact that you have had that comment made by the Prime Minister.
Cassandra Fowler is chairman of the F&M in North Andros. She testified against 2 cousins whose names have been ordered struck from the list of registered voters.
I feel great about that outcome because I know and my family know that they don't live here. I still love them, but right is right.
Now the PLP has a list of about 70 people whose names are being questioned, but Davis said they would only be challenged after the election if their votes could change the outcome. Now a new list with 10 additional names of challenged voters has been presented. Administrator Christie set April 13th as the hearing date. But it's important again to note here that once the House of Assembly has been dissolved, absolutely no changes can be made to the voters register. Now, Van Lock Fowler, one of those 5 voters ordered struck from the register, was in court today. He then headed to Nassau, where our Juan McCartney caught up with him.
Candia, today we spoke to Van Lock Fowler at his business about no longer being able to vote in North Andros for the first time in years. We also talked to him about being called out by the Prime Minister several weeks ago and his relationship with Ingram. Speaking publicly for the first time today, Fowler maintained that he's entitled to vote in North Andros because he has a home there, along with the residents in Nassau. He maintained he has every right to vote where he chooses. He also said he finds it peculiar that Administrator Christie would say he doesn't live in North Andros, as the administrator has reportedly visited him at his home there before.
He knows I live in Andros. I have a resident in Andros because he'd been there himself. Okay? He been to my resident.
But Fowler says he's not surprised by today's outcome, not after Prime Minister Ingram broadcasted his name and address at a political event in defiance of a court order not to do so last month. Fowler said he doubted the administrator would go against the Prime Minister.
When the Prime Minister says I cannot vote in Andros, you think he really not? You think he's going to embarrass the Prime Minister? Of course not.
Fowler claims he doesn't really care where he votes, but he does have a problem with what the Prime Minister did. Fowler said he believes when Ingram publicized his address, he put him, his daughters, and his granddaughter at risk.
He could tell the criminals exactly where my business is, where they could come to see me or meet me. He put us at risk, and the Prime Minister should know that he is not just the Prime Minister of FNMs. He is also the Prime Minister of PLPs, and he's obligated, his government is obligated to protect all citizens. But when he's going to say where my business is, he put us at risk. And I'm not angry about me not voting in Andros, I'm not. But I was very angry when the Prime Minister could tell people where I'm at.
According to Fowler, his history with the Prime Minister is a long and complicated one. Fowler said he supported the FNM before Ingram ever came on board, and when it was time to support the Prime Minister for leadership of the party, he backed Ingram with his money and time. But things have changed since then.
The first time I've been to Inagua, I was with the Prime Minister campaigning. The first time I went to Meguana, I was with the Prime Minister campaigning. The first time I went to Bimini, I was with him. And I don't think because I withdraw my support from the FNM, that give reason for the Prime Minister to get angry at me. That don't give him no reason to get angry at me. Every person in this country has a right to support whichever party they want to support. He knows that I don't support him anymore. But that's my rights, constitutional rights as a Bahamian. That's the way I see that. And I still love the Prime Minister, even though he did some things to me that is uncalled for.
Fowler claims this voter fraud exercise has only hurt the FNM and energized PLPs in North Andros.
We're going to fight much harder. They make it much harder for them to win, okay? Because they're making enemies in North Andros, and they don't need that. It's bad enough they now, but he'll get a good whooping, like Muhammad Ali would say.
Well, administrators and many students at Doris Johnson Senior High School were devastated today after a group of young hooligans tied up the night shift security guard at the school and wreaked havoc on the school's administrative offices and several classrooms. Paige Ferguson went there today as police officers wrapped up their investigations. Here's that story.
You can see the extent of the damage. The thugs kicked open the door to the principal's office. They pulled down the ventilation to the room and part of the ceiling. They ransacked the entire room, smashing in the computer monitor, and made off with whatever valuables they could. According to police, the robbery happened shortly after 3:30 this morning. They say 4 men dressed in hoodies, baggy sports shorts, and masks cut through a chain and lock on the northern part of the school's campus to gain access. They then headed to the administration building and smashed in the glass door to get inside. That's where they met the only security guard on duty overnight, who was sitting in the lobby. We weren't able to show the surveillance footage of the attack for investigative reasons, but in it, you can see the 4 men, one armed with a shotgun and another armed with a handgun, approach the officer and point their weapons at him. They instruct him to get up and keep his hands in the air as they take him to an area off camera. That's when police say they tied up the guard, blindfolded him, and beat him. Officer in charge of the Fox Hill Division, Assistant Superintendent Prince Charlton, said the victim was taken to hospital.
What I've gathered so far, the security guard who was on duty was held that day, and while they ransacked and stole a number of school items, I think what I was told is a television and some computers. If you look around, you see the amount of damage that was done. We are actively now looking in this investigation and trying to pick up those perpetrators.
When MB12 arrived at the school today, investigators had been dusting for fingerprints. A total of 7 offices and classrooms were targeted, including the offices of the principal, vice principal, and guidance counselor. Books and papers were strewn about. Drawers were pulled out and overturned. Computer monitors smashed, and door handles and locks were damaged. The principal of the school, Linda Major, said the 4 culprits made off with a number of flat-screen TVs, laptop computers, money from the school's petty cash drawer and fundraising drawer, as well as student-confiscated cell phones and jewelry. As mentioned earlier, in the principal's office, a portion of the roof had been torn down and surveillance equipment destroyed. They could not give a value for the goods or damage caused at this time.
We're following several leads right now, and we want to bring closure to this matter. We're asking the public also to assist the police in any way. Anyone who was around this area around between 4 a.m. to like 6 a.m. this morning, who could give some information as to what transpired here at the Dame Doris School.
Police say they have noticed a trend where schools and government buildings are being targeted by criminals. Police say the culprits in the matter seem to be familiar with the school's campus and surroundings, so they're not ruling out the possibility that students may be involved.
The way they destroyed the school seems personal. They went further than robbing. They ransacked the place. And does that give more credence to the fact that it might possibly be students?
Like I say, it's a possibility, but we are opening all avenues and leave all avenues to chance, and we're going to investigate each and every end to bring closure to this matter.
Police on the scene said they've never seen a robbery like this take place on a school campus like this before, and administrators say it will take days for things to return to normal here at Doris Johnson. Reporting for MB12, I'm Paige Ferguson.
Police are still investigating the circumstances surrounding a shooting Monday evening that left a man dead. According to Press Liaison Officer Inspector Chrislyn Skippings, police received a call around 6 p.m. indicating that a man had been shot at Dorset Alley off West Street.
Police responded and discovered the male lying against a wall with multiple gunshot injuries to the body. At present, we are uncertain of the circumstances surrounding this particular incident, and so we are appealing to members of the public, especially those persons residing within the Dorset Street area and the surrounding areas, who may have any information that can bring this particular matter to a close. We're asking you to please give us a call.
At present, police are still unsure of the motive behind the shooting. However, Director of the National Crime Prevention Office, Superintendent Stephen Dean, indicated that he is confident that crime-fighting initiatives are paying off.
We want to judge crime statistics on homicides. We're going to say it's not a police problem. We cannot do it alone. We could have strategies, but the strategies will only work if we get members of the public actively involved in it. So the members of the public determine how successful that will be. So we want to fight to make the Bahamas much better. We don't want to go down the same path of last year, and we will do everything that we can. We're working with members of the public. We're going to seek out some other leading citizens. We want you to take control of your community. The criminals just cannot take charge of these communities. We cannot surrender to them. So we are appealing to all leading citizens, all who want to see a better Bahamas, to get involved. Get involved with your local police chief, your local commanders, get involved in crime watch groups, and this is the only way we can fight the scourge of crime.
Meanwhile, police have released the identities of 2 other men who were recently murdered. The man who was killed outside a West Bay Street nightclub over the weekend has been identified as 20-year-old Akio Francois Burrows of Somerset Street. Police say 32-year-old Humphrey Tynes of St. Albans Drive has been identified as the man shot outside his home shortly after midnight on Monday. Again, police are asking anyone with information into any of these recent murders to contact them at 919, the Central Detective Unit, or 328-TIPS.